The Plank, presented by Ram, starts now.
I've never seen a ugly win.
At the end of the day, a win is a win. You know, no matter how you get it, you got to enjoy this win, man.
Well, very happy Lovie Smith and Jameis Winston after yesterday's 10-6 win over the Cowboys, and they should be. Welcome to this edition of The Plank, presented by Ram. I'm Tom Corrin.
And I'm John Sable. This show is streaming exclusively on our free ABC Action News app and, of course, on abcactionnews.com. This is how you guys can connect with us using Twitter. Join the hashtag and the conversation, The Plank. You can contact Tom and myself on our Twitter handles at TCornWFTS and at John_Sable. You can also give us a call. We'll be taking your calls for the next half hour at 813-878-2888. We'll be throwing this contact info up here throughout the 30 minutes or so. So we want to hear from you. Big win yesterday at Ray J with a thrilling finish.
Yeah, this week was all about finish. The Buccaneers defense set up the offense with very good field position. At the end, the offense finally put it in the end zone from the red zone, and that's what matters, man. I mean, they hadn't had that type of a situation go their way in some time. It was good to see. And right now it's time for the Plank Report, presented by Ram, with Tampa Bay Times reporter Rick Stroud, who covers the Buccaneers and the NFL for the Tampa Bay Times. Appreciate it, Rick. Thanks for joining us. What's your takeaway from yesterday's victory of the Buccaneers?
Well, I mean, I think Lovie's right. I don't think there is such thing as an ugly win in the NFL, although you can clearly see that offensively right now the Bucs are struggling with the lack of weapons for Jameis Winston. I mean, Mike Evans is sort of their do-everything receiver right now, and he pretty much abused Morris Claiborne until he went out with a hamstring injury and, did a pretty good job despite having a couple more drops. But, really Jameis is limited as to who he's throwing to and how efficient they can be, particularly in the red zone. So, one touchdown each week in the last 2 weeks, but the big difference on Sunday was really the Bucs defense and how they were able to step up. And I think, guys, the change that they've made at corner with Sterling Moore and, of course, Jude Adeyemi has really been a big difference for him on the back end.
Rick, John Sable here. This has been the best defensive game played so far by the Buccaneers. And with that change at corner, finally, I think they've got something here. Obviously, the Bucs are going to stick with this. How confident are you with Moore there that this is going to continue to kind of build some continuity in going forward in the final 7 games?
Defensive line, there's so much communication that has to happen pre-snap. I think when you've had 6 combinations in 8 weeks, clearly they were searching for the right guys, and it just turns out that these are the 2 that have been the most productive, at least these last couple of weeks. It's not to say you won't see Jonathan Banks or someone else back in there at some point, but I think what they give them are good tacklers, guys that are going to be at least able to cover a lot of man coverage when they're able to play some single high safety. Because for as much as people talk about the Tampa 2, they really do want to be able to affect some blitzers. We saw it yesterday with the linebackers, both Quan Alexander and Levante David had sacks, and you can only do that if you're going to be able to cover on the outside with those corners. So I think it's really helped their defense.
Rick, were you at all surprised how the defensive front of the Buccaneers did against that Dallas offensive line? I mean, all we heard all week was how stout they were and how difficult it was to get, obviously, to Matt Castle and, of course, the running game. Mm-hmm. Heck, they averaged, 2 yards, I think, a pop in the running game with McFadden. That didn't work, and Castle was knocked down 3 times. Were you surprised?
Yeah, I thought they did very well, Tom. I really think that, McFadden's run the ball better than that, and they were able to make them more one-dimensional and, really make them play behind the sticks so they could bring those blitzes. Look, they weren't able to get home with 4 guys. They kind of knew that going in. I think if you look at the cast out there, not a lot of pass rushers outside of Gerald McCoy, who I thought was active and got penetration, but, you got guys like Howard Jones and, of course, William Golston, not known for his pass rush ability. At times, they even we're using some linebackers in some third down situations to rush out the end. So, they're searching a bit, but you're right. They did a very good job, and it all starts with stopping the run. And once they're able to do that, in those big downs, some of those third downs, they were able to get some pressure on Castle, and that's when he was very uncomfortable and inaccurate.
Rick, let's look on the other side of the ball offensively. Bucs finally getting in the red zone late with Jameis Winston's rushing touchdown, proved to be the game winner. They struggled a little bit even getting in there. Of course, they're still missing weapons. No V-Jack, no Lewis Murphy, no Austin Seferian-Jenkins. Mike Evans came up big with over 150 yards receiving. Still had some drops, but the red zone issues could be a concern going forward. What do you think they're going to need to do in order to kind of fix that here in the final 7 games?
Well, short of getting those guys you mentioned back, like Vincent Jackson and Austin and others, I think it's going to be tough because, you teams, as the field gets shorter, you obviously can have more guys closer to the line of scrimmage, and that's going to inhibit their running game quite a bit. You'd like to be able to run the football down there, especially inside the 5-yard line. It's very tough to do right now. And, without the big targets, the little guys like Adam Humphries, and we've seen, a Dye, and some of those guys getting muscled a little bit at the line of scrimmage. Not much room to work down there. They're not the biggest of targets. So, Mike Evans remains their best red zone option, and yet they're going to jump him all the time. So it is going to be very difficult. And I think that's why you've seen Jameis Winston, sort of ad-lib down there, and he's got 3 rushing touchdowns this season. I know they don't want him to run the ball, but, quicker decisions will help Jameis as he continues to progress. I think the red zone is one of the tougher things to do because you do have to make quick decisions and be very accurate. And at times, Jameis hasn't been quite as accurate as he needs to be down there yet.
Well, Rick, next step for these guys is to win 2 in a row. They've got an opportunity in Philadelphia this week. Then they go on the road again against the Indianapolis Colts. They're not going to face the starting quarterbacks either week, it appears, which may be a break for them and perhaps an opportunity to get on maybe a little run. All depends how they do on this road trip.
Well, you know what, Tom? It's kind of funny. When you look at the NFC, there's only 6 teams with winning records, and I believe 6 go to the playoffs, so you're never really that far out of it right now. There's not a lot of great teams in the NFC. Maybe one of the best teams is Carolina, and I know the Bucs certainly are familiar with them. So, yeah, you get on a little bit of roll. They have caught a break both with the schedule, who they play in the AFC. The NFC East is down. Now it looks like you're going to have some backup quarterbacks coming up in these next 2 weeks against football teams that, frankly, are struggling. The Bucs could and need to get on a run here, and you never know where you're going to find yourself come December.
Well, right now they are not in last place. That is the New Orleans Saints. They have the bye week this week, but the Buccaneers sitting at 4-5. And Rick Ayers, thank you very much for the time. We do appreciate it, and hopefully we get a chance to hook up again down the road.
Anytime, guys. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Rick Stroud joining us, the NFL and Buccaneer beat writer for the Tampa Bay Times. It's always a pleasure talking with him. And it was a pleasure looking at Mike Evans yesterday. Had a couple of drops. I'm going to let it slide this time.
Overall,
it wasn't his hands. It was just it just is what it is.
Overall, an ugly, gritty win. But afterwards, you talk to some of the Buccaneers players. They're just happy they got it, and they'll take it.
This was sweet, man. We needed this one. Dallas played great in the red zone today, and other teams have been playing us really well. We got Austin out and V-Jack's out. It's been tough, but we just kept fighting and we got the W.
Getting wins like this, shows that we can get over the hump and deal with adversity. We had a lot of penalties, but no matter what the circumstances, we could find a way to win.
Everyone on this team is starting to learn their roles as this team, and when we're able to perfect our roles and really do our job, we're going to be a tough team to beat.
We've been pretty bad in the red zone for most of the year, and tonight, game's on the line. We're down there, and we finally punched it in, so that was very big.
And Logan Mankins went on to say, he says, okay, hey, we won this one, but now the key is can we win 2 in a row?
Yes.
We have not been able to put 2 in a row together, and that is going to be the next step for this football team.
Yeah, they haven't won 2 straight games since November of 2013 when Greg Schiano was the head coach. Let's go inside the numbers from yesterday's win over the Cowboys. Jameis Winston, not as accurate as he was in the last few games, but of course he provided the win with his leg. Mike Evans, TK, you mentioned some drops, but he did go over the 100-yard plateau. 126 receiving yards for him, 4th time he's done that. And like you said, TK, the challenge now for the Bucs is building off this win and going forward and winning 2 straight.
Yeah, and I look.
We have an 8-game season left to go, and we need to now. All the growing pains, that's behind us in the first half. Now we need to see improvements and find a way to win games at the end.
Took the words right out of your mouth.
Yeah, he certainly did. I'm very, very, very Not very often am I speechless, but I was there.
Well,
I
a win yesterday like that will do that to you.
Well, it's good, and I think Lovey had talked about this being Bucs ball, how the defense wins things. I'm not a big advocate of this type of football. I don't think this is going to win you a lot of games because they don't have the offense right now.
You don't have the playmakers
they had back in the day when he's talking about this is the way Bucs ball used to be with the Lynches, Saps, et cetera, because they had an offense that was able to put at least 17 to 20 points on the board. And at that time, that defense only allowed 11 points a game. So it was it's a whole different complexion. You can't do it. I don't think you can do it now in the National Football League.
The game's changed, a lot's different, but of course the Buccaneers don't have a lot of players that can make those type of plays. They don't have the game playmakers on the offensive side. We already talked to Rick Stroud about the injuries and everything. So we want to know who's walking the plank this week. We'll reveal that later on. We want to hear from you. We'll be taking your phone calls right here on the plank, presented by Ram, 813-878-2888. We'll be right back.